3-game sweep. Welcome on in. I am Hunter Baumgardt. Good to have you for the next hour as we get you set for game 3, I should say, of this 3-game series, the last game of the 6-game road trip for the Crew, which has obviously, it's been actually pretty successful. 3-2. They'll try to go 4-2 on the road trip with a win tonight. Shane Drowan on the mound for the Crew, 3-2 with a 3.40 ERA against Rhett Lauder, 3-4 with a 4.82 ERA. Appreciate you bearing with us. A little late start if you're listening to us or watching us. Appreciate you bearing with us. Some gremlins sometimes happen in radio, and you just deal with them, and that's exactly what we did. So let's get right into tonight's show. Brewers 48-29 on the season. Reds 37-41. This is a 6:10 first pitch tonight, and let's get you tonight's starting lineups here, and let's start with the Milwaukee Brewers. Leading off as the DH is Christian Yelich. Batting second in left field, Jackson Chourio. Batting third at second base, Bryce Terang. The cleanup hitter is the catcher, William Contreras. Batting fifth at first base is Jake Bauers. And batting sixth in center field is Garrett Mitchell. Batting seventh in right field, Sal Frelick. Batting eighth at shortstop is Cooper Pratt, and batting ninth at third base is David Hamilton. For the Brewers, it's Yelich, Chourio, Terang, Contreras, Bauers, Mitchell, Frelick, Pratt, and Hamilton. For the Cincinnati Reds, as I mentioned, 37-41, trying to avoid the sweep at the hands of the Milwaukee Brewers. Leading off in left field is Blake Dunn. Batting second at shortstop, Ellie De La Cruz. Batting third in center field is Dane Myers. Batting fourth, the cleanup hitter, third baseman Sal Stewart. Batting fifth at first base, Spencer Steer. Batting sixth as the DH tonight is Eugenio Suarez. Batting seventh in right field, Noelvi Marte. Batting eighth and behind the plate, Tyler Stevenson. And batting ninth and at second base is Matt McLean. For the Reds, it's Dunn, De La Cruz, Myers, Stewart, Steer, Suarez, Marte, Stevenson, and McLean. Those are your starting lineups for both the Brewers and the Reds. Want to hear from you on YouTube, Facebook, or X, wherever you may be watching tonight. YouTube, Fox Sports Radio, Wisconsin. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. You'll know when we go live for the pregame show, Milwaukee baseball tonight on Thursdays, and also, of course, the huddle in the morning. And you can also get in touch with us on the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line at 877-794-1973. So let's get into the news of the day, and really the biggest headline of the afternoon/evening of just any news that has come out of Cincinnati is that the biggest news is that Abner Uribe is going to be serving his suspension tonight. For the Milwaukee Brewers. Get it out of the way before the Cubs come to town this weekend and before you have a pivotal stretch of 18 games in 17 days starting on Friday into the All-Star break, which we'll get to in a moment. Brewers manager Pat Murphy addressing that before the game today. But Abner Uribe will serve his 1-game suspension coming up tonight. And Uribe, this incident happened back on May 26th, and he's serving it on June 24th. This took forever for this to come down. It'll be a 1-game suspension. And again, May 26th was when this, remember he did the, you could call it, I don't know if it's obscene, but it was just a gesture towards the St. Louis Cardinals dugout after finishing up an inning on May 26th, and he was subsequently suspended for 1 game, and now he will serve that suspension just under a month later. This is Brewers manager Pat Murphy talking about it.
There's been a lot in this settlement. There's been a lot of back and forth, but nothing that I'm privy to, but that's the agreement they came to. So there's nothing else to say about it, really, truly. There's opinions out there about things. What about this? What about this? But I think it's better left unsaid, and just, today's the day he'll serve it.
Today's the day he'll serve it. That'll be that. And everything will be, after that, back to normal. Remember, he was suspended 1 game and levied an undisclosed fine by Major League Baseball on May 29th for his gestures toward the Cardinals dugout. Did I say May 26th? I may have meant I thought it was May. Was it May? Yeah, it was May 26th. May 26th. Beg your pardon. May 26th. So I was right the first time, but May 26th. And then he exercised his right to appeal and continued to pitch, including appearances for the last 5 days. And so, of course, now he is serving that suspension tonight. Kurt Hoge, the Journal Sentinel, reporting that the suspension is a settlement was reached, and clearly not to remove the suspension. So perhaps the settlement part of it involved the fine. So maybe there's a settlement on the fine side, but official word is that a settlement was reached and he will serve his 1-game suspension tonight in Cincinnati. And this kind of comes at a perfect time for him. I mean, you could also say kind of a perfect time for the Brewers too, because they have an off day tomorrow, get him a couple of days of rest. And for him specifically, he's pitched 4 out of the last 5 days. And so likely he was going to be down anyway tonight. And this is kind of a scenario where you're able to have him out on a night where he was probably going to be out anyway. So something to think about. I think this kind of lined up well when it came to the timing of this suspension. If this would have came, on Friday, probably not. Probably wouldn't have been great. But I get it. The league wants to make a statement here. Don't make those types of gestures at the dugout, and I'm sure Abner will learn from it. But he defended his actions at first. He apologized to everybody associated with the organization, but then defended it by saying, I don't like that it was back to that whole thing of maybe the Cardinals were trying to make signs to hit players and all of that stuff that went on in that Cardinal series that we covered extensively. So it is now going to be in the past after tonight. The Brewers will be 1 man down in the bullpen. We'll get to our bullpen report coming up here in just a little while. Last night, the Brewers won 2-0, and Sproat had the exact same line as Brandon Woodruff did the night before. Just exceptional. They're the second pair of pitchers in franchise history to work 6 scoreless innings and allow 1 or fewer hits with 10+ strikeouts in consecutive starts. How about that? Again, I'll repeat that. The second pair of pitchers in franchise history to go 6+ innings, not allow a run, allow 1 or fewer hits, and have 10 strikeouts in consecutive starts. The first duo, the other duo to do that was Burns and Woodruff back in 2020. Burns did it against Detroit, and then Woodruff did it against the Cubs. So exceptional work by Brandon Sproat. And I'm telling you, this guy is starting to turn the corner a little bit, I think. And if you look at, the ERA is still up there, higher than you'd want it to be. The sum of his year isn't as good as maybe you would like it to be, but he's really starting to turn the corner. You take out that inning that he was dealing with the hamstring cramp 2 starts ago against the Cleveland Guardians, in which he gave up 4 runs, gave up that grand slam. We talked about it last night in the pregame show. You take out that inning, and let me give you the numbers for the last 3 starts. And you're like, Hunter, well, that's not fair. You're taking out an inning. Yeah, I'm taking out an inning of time when he was actually injured and a time when he was battling through a cramp. So I don't think it's unfair to take out that inning. So you take out that inning and you go the last 3 starts, 15 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 18 strikeouts. Again, I'll repeat that. Last 3 starts for him, taking out that 1 inning that he was dealing with a hamstring cramp during the inning. 15 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 18 strikeouts. That's exceptional. I mean, that's Kyle Harrison, Jacob Mizorowski stuff a little bit when you go in that line. And Brandon Woodruff, obviously, the 2 Brandons back-to-back, identical lines. Exceptional. And if he's turning a corner, you think about what Brandon Woodruff did the other night. You think, obviously, what Miz and Harrison have done. Look out. I mean, that could be quite a fierce 4 pitchers for you. And then add in Drowan or Gasser or Henderson, whoever you want to, Crow, whoever you want to as your 5th starter, and you're feeling good. Not that every outing for Sproat's going to be 6 innings of shutout baseball with 1 hit and 10 strikeouts, but I do think that he has that potential in there. We've been saying it all season. The coaches have been saying it all season. He has it in there. It's just about fine-tuning it. And boy, did he fine-tune it last night. That was an awesome performance by Brandon Sproat last night. So really, really good. And overall, the Brewers pitching staff has been sensational over the last 8 games or so. And I want to kind of get into how the Brewers have played in the last 8 games and what's been good and what's been bad, because the offense has not been great. The Brewers have scored 2 or less runs in 5 of their last 8 games. They've scored 3 or less runs in 6 of their last 8 games. They haven't been scoring at that great of a clip right now. And why? Well, if you look at those who are regularly in the lineup, their batting average over the last 7 games is not great. And I chose the last 7 games as kind of a group of games to look at, because not every guy plays every game. So about the last 7 would give you a good idea of how the offense is doing over the last 8 total, in which they've scored just 2 or less runs in 5 of those 8 games. How about the last 7 games? These are some batting averages for some of these offensive players, okay? Christian Yelich, 179. Jackson Chourio, 172. Jake Bauers, 200. Garrett Mitchell, 136. Joey Ortiz, 150. Okay, so you have Yelich, Chourio, Bauers, Mitchell, and Ortiz all under 200 in the last 7 games. Then you go to the next tier. Terang hitting 267, not bad. Kind of coming out of that slump a little bit. And then Frelick, Hamilton, and Vaughn all at 286, but obviously those guys aren't having everyday playing time. And then the 2 outliers that are consistent players, Contreras hitting 348 and Pratt hitting 350. Terang and more so Contreras and Vaughn, these guys are kind of carrying the lineup right now. Bauers is in a slump over the last week. Yelich is in a slump over the last week. Churio's in a slump over the last week. Mitchell's over a slump in the last week. These guys are not hitting well. But Hunter, why have they went 5-3 in their last 8 games when those guys have those types of batting averages over that time period? It's because of the exceptional pitching. The Brewers have received 5 consecutive quality starts for the first time since July of 2023. The team starting staff last tossed at least 6 consecutive quality starts in 2014 when they did it 7 straight times. So if Shane Drowan gives you a quality start tonight, that'll be the most consecutive quality starts since 2014 by their pitching staff. And you think of all the great pitchers they have had since 2014. Your Peralta, Woodruff, Burns, and they have had a lot of great pitchers come through this system since 2014, and they have not been able to do it yet. The amount of 6 consecutive quality starts, they haven't done it since 2014. We'll see if that happens tonight, if Shane Drowan's able to do it. But you look at the last 8 games overall, as I mentioned, 5-3. Brewers offense has not been great, but the pitching has been sensational. Obviously, the last 2 nights, Sproat and Woody have won 6 innings, not allowed a run. Gasser went 6 innings of 2-run ball on Sunday. Saturday, Harrison went 6 1/3 and gave up just 2 earned runs. Miz went 6 innings and gave up 2 earned runs on Friday. Drowan went 5 innings and gave up just 1 earned run in the series finale against the Guardians. Sproat left with the hamstring injury. That line was 3 2/3 of 4 earned runs. But then Gasser 5 2/3 of shutout baseball, and Harrison 6 innings of no-run baseball. So you have in that time period, 1, 2, 3, 4 of your last 8 games, the starter has not allowed an earned run. And your starter has allowed 2 earned runs or less in all but one of those starts. And that one was the one where Sproat had to leave with the hamstring cramp. Your rotation has been sensational as of late. Absolutely sensational. And that is the reason why you've been able to win more than lose in your last 8 games, and you're 5-3. I mean, think of the last 2 nights. 2-0, 2-1 the last 2 nights in 10 innings the first night. Or think of that first game against the Guardians, a 2-1 victory. Really, the only game, they've had 2 9-4 wins over the last 8 games. So those have been the 2 where you've been out, where you've been really scoring well. But otherwise, over your last 8 games, it's been 2 runs, then 9, and then 2 runs, then 2 runs, then 3 runs, then 9, then 2 runs, then 2 runs. So, I think, as Mad City Brew just said, caught looking third strike isn't a good look. I agree. There's some of these at-bats have been a little ugly. Jake Bauers, it seems, has more often lately just struck out looking specifically. Hasn't been as hot as he was. All these guys are going to go through tough times in a season. You can't play 162 games and not have your offense go into slumps. What's amazing is the Brewers have, a good enough pitching staff to keep them afloat, even with having this type of slump with some of your better players, Yelich, Churio, Mitchell, Bowers on offense going through slumps of hitting 200 or less in their last 7. So really interesting. But I commend what the Brewers have been able to do in the starting pitching realm, and also commend, look, they may have not have scored a lot, but hey, the 10th inning, they knew what to do to put a runner across, right? Get that first run in and then manufacture, somehow get that second run in on the wild pitch on Monday night in extra innings. Like, they've been able to find a way to score runs, even if their offense isn't clicking all that well. So pretty impressive what the Brewers have been able to do and put together a 5-3 stretch over these last 8 games. But you want to see this offense be a little bit more consistent. I mean, we saw this offense, the wild part is through the first couple of weeks of June, this was the best offense in baseball, really. I mean, they scored 8 or more runs in 3 of the 4 games against the Giants. They scored at least 7 runs in all 3 games in Colorado. They scored 15, and then they scored 5 and 3 against the A's, but then they scored 6, 8, and 4 against the Phillies. And then now in the last 8 games, it's just kind of came down a little bit. So hopefully they turn it around and hopefully can take advantage of the beat-up pitching staff against the Cubs coming up this weekend. Mad City Brew saying, glad Uribe will be ready for the Clowns. I think he means Cubs series this weekend. Also says, I guess the PCA gesture is okay. So, yeah, I don't know. Look, I mean, he yelled at a fan and nothing happened there. I don't get that at all. You're going to have a one-game suspension for a gesture towards a dugout, but you're not going to discipline someone who was yelling at a fan clearly on video and audio. I don't get that. I don't get it. That's wrong. To me, that's wrong. Phil says, hello. Hello, Phil. Charles says, let's go Brewers. Love it. Wisco Sports Fanatic says, on pace for a 100-win season. Keep it up. This team is trying to get to 20 games over 500 for the first time this season tonight. And let's do it, right? Let's absolutely do it. They're 48-29 on the season. Coming into today, they are 6 games up on the Cardinals, who lost last night, 42-35 for the Cardinals. Cubs won today. They're playing a doubleheader in New York, so they sit 7 back. Pirates are 10 back, and Reds sit 11.5 games back after last night. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, get you a little detail on Brandon Sproat. I'm so used to saying Brandon is the starting pitcher the last 2 nights. Shane Drowan and Rhett Lauder, your 2 starting pitchers. We'll dig into them. Also get your bullpen report. Hear a little bit more from Brewers manager Pat Murphy, his pregame comments in Cincinnati today. We'll be right back. This is the Baseball Pregame Show presented by Import Minded right here on Fox Sports 920. Welcome back. It is Milwaukee baseball tonight, getting you set for Brewers and Reds at Great American Ballpark, I should say. They're almost back at American Family Field this weekend. They'll be taking on the Chicago Cubs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Cannot wait. I'll be with you to get ready for the first game of the series on Friday night on the baseball pregame show, and that will come up at 5:30 on Friday, 6:45 first pitch, and the game is on Apple TV on Friday, by the way. So just a little bit of a heads up there. Friday, it is going to be on Apple TV. So you could do a free trial. Like, even if you don't have Apple TV, just get a free trial for a week, see the Brewers and the Cubs play, and then cancel it. You got to remember to cancel it. I'm not very good at remembering to cancel those things, and that's where they get you. They get you. And then it's like, oh, man, but it's worth it. So get Apple TV. And speaking of that, we're going to have Trisha Whitaker, who is their sideline reporter. She's going to join Milwaukee baseball tomorrow. Let's start tomorrow tonight. We are going to have her on Milwaukee baseball tonight tomorrow at 6:00. We preview the Cubs series, look back at the Reds series, a full hour of Brewers conversation coming at you tomorrow, 6 to 7 here on Fox Sports 920. And that'll be an audio only show. So won't be able to do it on YouTube here, but you'll be able to hear it on Fox Sports 920 in the iHeartRadio app. And then if you missed that show, you'll be able to hear the podcast version on just search Baseball Pregame Show with Hunter Baumgardt on the iHeartRadio app, and you can listen back to the show. I want to hear from you right now, though, over on YouTube. Let's see here. Phil, let's see what Phil said here. If the Brewers starting pitching can stay healthy this year, they could go far in the playoffs. Last few years, they seem to have one or two key injuries late. I was just talking with somebody about that today. I feel like it cannot be a Brewers postseason run without a key injury. Last year was Woodruff. Yeah, it's all about staying healthy, and that's why they'll try to keep these guys as healthy as possible as the season goes on. Wisconsin Sports Fanatic says, when are they on Apple TV only? That is Friday night. Friday night, Brewers and Cubs. Jacob Mizorowski on the mound. You're going to want to get Apple TV for that game. I'm just telling you. Jacob Mizorowski against the Cubs. The guy, his velocity's already gotten up to 104.5 this year. I don't know. Something tells me he could maybe beat that on Friday night when he's facing the Chicago Cubs at home with that crowd behind him. So just my 2 cents. Just my 2 cents. You may, and I'm not a paid subscribe, I'm not being paid to tell you what to do with Apple TV. I'm just telling you, you might want to get Apple TV for that game. Charles says, Brewers offense is so due for a breakout game. Tonight would be great with the bullpen work the last few days. And that's a great segue, Charles. We'll get to our starting pitchers in a moment, but I wanted to talk about the bullpen and the state of it going into tonight. It would behoove the Brewers to get out to a big lead tonight. I said that last night, and then they ended up using Ashby, Uribe, and McGill. But those guys have been used a lot. Let's get to our bullpen report, sponsored by Community Roofing and Restoration. And so Abner Uribe is suspended. We know that. He is not going to be playing tonight. He's serving his one-game suspension for doing the gesture to the Cardinals dugout back in late May. So Aaron Ashby, he's pitched in 3 of the last 4 games, including the last 2. Trevor McGill, he's pitched in 3 of the last 4 games, including the last 2. Those guys are maybe in an emergency, you would use them. Otherwise, I think tonight's bullpen is going to consist of Joel Kuhnel, Chad Patrick, Craig Yoho, and Grant Anderson. I think those are going to be the guys you're working from. Now, Joel Kuhnel pitched on Monday through 10 pitches. I think he's fine for tonight. Chad Patrick on Sunday pitched 40 pitches. I think he's fine for tonight. In fact, they love to go with Chad Patrick usually out of the bullpen after Drowan. So you could see that tonight. They've done that a couple of times this year. Craig Yoho hasn't pitched since Friday. He's good to go. And Grant Anderson has not pitched since Thursday at home. So he hasn't even pitched on the road trip. So I would think that he will be ready to rock and roll. So there you go. That is the bullpen report. It's pretty simple, but like you said, Charles, if you get out to a good lead, that's big, because obviously you're going with just like you did against the Guardians in that series finale last time Shane Drowan pitched, right? He started and you kind of went with your B bullpen, so to speak, and you went with your secondary guys, and it didn't end well. Drowan gave up 1 earned run. Those guys gave up 3, and the Brewers ended up losing 4-2 in that series finale against Cleveland. So I think that's significant that you have that coming up. And I think you would want to get out to a big lead, so then you have some cushion if those guys do end up giving up any runs. But maybe you see a Drowan Chad Patrick piggyback here. Maybe you see a Drowan for 5 and Patrick for 4 and you win. I don't know. That wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't mind that. So we'll see what happens. But that's your bullpen report, brought to you by Community Roofing and Restoration, beauty, durability, and excellence since 1975. Let's hear Brewers manager Pat Murphy talking about kind of the strategy behind what they do with their bullpen, and then going into tonight being a little short.
Win tonight, and then you worry about the next day, and hopefully you have enough, and you can't always tell what's going on the other side either. So we'll just take our chances and do our thing. We're in the midst of trying to find how to get better. We're in that mode of climbing.
So there you go, Brewers manager Pat Murphy. The very first part of that, listen to that again.
Win tonight, and then you worry about the next day.
That is his mantra. Win tonight and then figure out the next day. Now, does he run his guys into the ground? No. Is he at least aware of that he has to have a bullpen for the next day? Yes. But that's also the mantra that has won a lot of games over the last 2.5 seasons under Pat Murphy. So I think it's significant that, he lays it right out there for you. Win tonight and worry about tomorrow. Worry about the next day. And that is what has won a lot of games. And that is also what gets you into kind of like a little bit of a bind tonight when your bullpen is a little short and then you have Abner Uribe suspended. Again, tonight's a good time for Abner Uribe to serve the suspension for him because he's worked 4 out of the last 5 days and would have been unavailable anyway. Obviously, you want as many arms available in the bullpen as possible, but I think this makes a lot of sense because he probably wasn't going to pitch anyway, no matter the outcome of the game or the score. Wisconsin Sports Fanatic says July 3rd, Apple TV. Also, you're right. They've got the next 2 weeks they are on Apple TV. So they've got Apple TV. So the next 2 Fridays they are on Apple TV. Home against the Cubs this week, and then in Arizona, that 8:45 first pitch in Arizona coming up on the 3rd of July. Okay, so that is a little update on Apple TV. So if you get it, you'll probably have to, because it's a 7-day free trial. So you might have to get 2 free trials, or just pay for a month. That might be your best way to go. I know it's annoying. Yeah, I don't get, like, I was I wish that it was just accessible for everyone all the time. That is not the world we live in, unfortunately. So that is the case. However, obviously, if you buy Brewers TV, you're pretty set. But otherwise, there are these national exclusives, they're called. So they don't have a side-by-side broadcast with the Brewers TV. So you have to get Apple TV. It's to bring people to Apple TV, as we know. All right, so taking a look at tonight's starting pitching matchup between Shane Drowan and Rhett Lauder. Drowan is 3-2 with a 3.40 ERA, and the righty Rhett Lauder is 3-4 with a 4.82 ERA. Let's look at Shane Drowan first. He's had 4 starts in June since he joined the rotation. This will be number 5. His ERA is 4.43 ERA. His bullpen ERA is a lot better than his starter ERA, but they, have no other choice really right now with who they have injured in that starting rotation. Last time out against Cleveland, as I mentioned, the series finale against the Guardians last week, he went 5 innings, allowed 1 earned run. So that is kind of the skinny on Shane Drowan, and you hope that he can get a little deeper. We talked to him. I was going back through some of the audio as I was preparing for the show of Shane Drowan last time after his outing against the Guardians, and he just sounded kind of dejected. And it's like, he gave up 1 earned run over 5 innings. I know they lost the game, so they're going to be a little more dejected, and they're not going to say, oh, yeah, look at me. I had a great outing, and the team lost. Like, that's not how it's going to go. But there were some things he wanted to clean up, and we'll see if he's able to be a little bit more effective tonight. The Brewers are facing Rhett Lauder, who is 3-4 with a 4.82 ERA. The righty was out for a month from May 7th to June 7th with a shoulder injury. And in his 3 starts, he's had 3 starts since coming back here in June. June 7th against St. Louis, he just went 3 innings. It was his first time back. No earned runs in that one. Then June 13th against Arizona, he went 5 2/3, 1 earned run in that one. And then his last outing wasn't great. 5 innings, 4 earned runs against the New York Yankees. And that was June 19th, 5 days ago. So he has a 3.21 ERA in June. A couple of those outings were better than that last one. Tonight will be his 12th start on the season for Rhett Lauder, and hopefully the Brewers can get to him a little more. Again, that offense just is not. I talked last night how they were kind of set up with a good matchup against Lodolo, even Brady Singer on the series opener on Monday night, but unfortunately it just hasn't been the case, hasn't bared fruit so far. And so we'll see if tonight is the night for that. So that's a little look at tonight's starting pitching matchup in Cincinnati at Great American Ballpark. I wanted to also get to kind of the rotation and how it's going to set up. Brewers manager Pat Murphy today talked about Robert Gasser, said Robert Gasser would likely be available out of the bullpen this weekend. And so here is how the rotation is starting to set up. This weekend, the Brewers have announced that Jacob Mizorowski will start on Friday, Kyle Harrison will start on Saturday, and Brandon Woodruff will get the start on Sunday. So you've got your 3 horses against the Cubs. I love how they lined it up. Miz, Harrison, Woodruff, good luck, Cubs. Okay? Then Monday, I would think will be Brandon Sproat because that'll be a full 5 days of rest for him, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and he'll be ready to go. So I would think Sproat on Monday. And then it becomes, okay, is it Drowan or Gasser? And Pat Murphy alluded to today that Gasser will be available out of the bullpen over the weekend, but then it sounded like he'll rejoin the rotation. So is he going to take Shane Drowan's spot after tonight? Possibly. I don't know, because that Tuesday would then be either Drowan or Gasser, because Miz would be on only 4. I would think that they are going to not start Miz on that Tuesday. I would think they'll wait till that Wednesday. And so, yeah, they're not going to start him on a Tuesday. That'd be 3 days rest. That'd be silly. Okay, so yeah, Miz would start then that Wednesday game against the Reds, but you either have Drowan or Gasser there on that Tuesday, but see, yeah, the or of that is having like Drowan or Gasser start on Tuesday and then Drowan or Gasser start on Wednesday. I don't think that's the case. So part of me sounds like gathering all the information. Pat Murphy saying yesterday that they're not going to go to a 6-man rotation. And then, or was that Monday? One of the last 2 days, he said they're not going to keep with the 6-man rotation after tomorrow when they have 18 games in 17 days. And then also saying Gasser will rejoin, hinting today that he will rejoin the rotation. It kind of sounds like Gasser would pitch Tuesday and maybe Drowan goes to the bullpen. I love Drowan in the bullpen. So if they're not going to do a 6-man rotation, my rotation right now would be Miz, Harrison, Woodruff, Sproat, Gasser. Roll that out until the All-Star break. And obviously you have a doubleheader in St. Louis, so maybe you have Drowan start a game there. But otherwise, that's what I would do. It sounds like maybe that's the way they're leaning. But we know through the weekend, it's Miz, Harrison, Woodruff. And then I would think Sproat on Monday. And then the first question mark comes that second game of that 4-game set against the Reds next week, when it'll be either Shane Drowan or Robert Gasser. This is what Brewers manager Pat Murphy had to say about going into this 18 games and 17 games and 17-day stretch, which starts on Friday, and how the team can kind of prepare for it, get through it, and some of the pitching injuries that may or may not be back. Some of the guys that are injured right now that may or may not be back. Take a listen. In 3 and 2 and 1.
There's going to be, as hard as these guys play and the way we play, so to speak, and how many close games we've played, we're going into a tough time. We could be worse off. We've gotten some injured guys back. We won't have any. Koenig will probably be available, but DL and Henderson you probably won't see in this stretch. Maybe, but it's all hands on deck. Guys have to realize what we're going through, how important it is to take care of our bullpen, and the starters have been doing a great job of that. So
you've said before about stuff like this, you learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
Like who can step up.
Yeah.
Unfamiliar roles.
Yeah, there's going to be somebody struggling. Like, we got guys not swinging it great now. Like somebody else has got to step up.
I would think that I would venture to guess that the only guy who could come back during this stretch is Logan Henderson. And I don't know necessarily that he will. I have a feeling that they may save him till after the All-Star break, especially if he's continued to have some back soreness. I know the update we got yesterday was that he is planning to start a rehab assignment on Sunday, maybe go 2 or 3 innings. But it also sounded like yesterday from Pat Murphy that he's still experiencing some back soreness. So I don't know if he's going to be able to come back before the All-Star break. The good news is you're going to have Jared Koenig back, it sounds like, this weekend. So it sounds like Jared Koenig will rejoin the bullpen, I should say, and Robert Gasser will be available out of the bullpen. I would think the move is either, I think the move is Yoho coming up this weekend. Unfortunately, I think Yoho is the odd man out in the bullpen, and Jared Koenig can hopefully kind of recapture what he did. He just hasn't been right so far this year. Hopefully, he can recapture what he did last season. Let's see here. Charles says perfect setup for the Cubs. Let's see. Wisconsin Sports Fanatic says, I wonder if Miz would pitch the next 2 Fridays. Possibly. I think he's probably slated for that Wednesday game, though. If they're not going with a 6-man rotation, and if they're going with a 5-man, he's probably going to pitch that Wednesday game against the Reds, 3rd game of that 4-game series. And that's because that would be normal rest for Jacob Mizorowski. So, and again, they have no off days. So you got a 3-game series against the Cubs this weekend, a 4-game series against Cincinnati, and then you're on the road in Arizona for 4th of July weekend. And I would think that Jacob Mizorowski, if you're looking to figure out where Jacob Mizorowski is going to pitch, which I always am because I'm always interested in that, because why not? But Jacob Mizorowski pitches Friday, and then I would think he would pitch the next Wednesday. That's what I would think, unless for some reason they change their mind. They want to go with a 6-man rotation in which he would pitch the finale against the Reds coming up next Thursday. So that's what it looks like to be as of now. Let's see here. Mad City Brew says, wake up those bats because this is a huge 17-game stretch. You got it, including a 5-game series in St. Louis as well. Rhonda says, which would you rather have, a player who's great at bat but average defensive play, or average batter but great defensive abilities? Joey's always catching flack for batting, but he makes defensive plays. That play in the 9th inning last night, I know Pat Murphy gave it a shout out last night. Pat Murphy was basically like, for a guy who struck out his last 3 times at bat to still stay in it, stay engaged defensively. Matt Erickson talks about that, the infield coach for the Brewers and third base coach. Stay engaged. That's exactly what Joey Ortiz did last night. And to not allow a base runner in that 9th inning was so incredibly big. That would have been a much more stressful inning for Trevor McGill if that base runner gets on. But Ortiz makes a great play. And so I just, and Ortiz, as I mentioned, not hitting great as of late. Obviously he has not been hitting well in the last couple of years, 150 in his last 7 games. But I think he's putting together a little bit better at bats. Obviously, he's not doing great. But, man, I love that defensive lineup of Ortiz at third, Pratt at short, and Terang at second. It's really tough, Rhonda, because obviously they brought up Cooper Pratt, and he's given you a little more offensively than Luis Rengifo did, and he's better defensively. So that's kind of where you upgraded. And right now, Joey Ortiz gives you exceptional defense, and that saves your runs. It just does. Who knows where that 9th inning goes last night if he doesn't make the play? And he made a sensational play to end the game in extra innings on Monday night as well. So I kind of would, because you have Pratt now hitting better than Rengifo was, you feel pretty solid about your top 8. Earlier, you felt like because the left side of the infield was kind of a hole, it felt like you felt good about your top 7 in the lineup. Now you feel like pretty good. I do about my top 8. So if that's the case, I think you're okay having, that hole, so to speak, at 9 with the defense that Joey Ortiz plays. Hamilton is in that 9 spot tonight playing third base. We'll get to the lineups one more time. Coming up next in the final segment, also get you a couple of fast facts to make you a little smarter before you watch tonight's game between the Brewers and the Reds. We'll be right back on the Baseball Pregame Show, presented by Import Minded, your trusted choice for exceptional vehicle care on South 27th, just north of 894. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It is the baseball pregame show right here on Fox Sports 920. Working through a little bit of technical gremlins, but doing our best here. Thanks so much for bearing with us and enjoying each and every show. I love all the comments coming through over on YouTube, NicoletLaw.com talk and text line. I'll be with you tomorrow from Milwaukee Baseball Tonight from 6 to 7. Once again, an audio-only show, so make sure you're listening to Fox Sports 920 on the iHeartRadio app or 920 AM in Milwaukee. And if you miss it, you can go back and listen. We're going to talk about the Red Series. We'll look ahead to the Cubs series. And also Tricia Whitaker, who is the sideline reporter for Apple TV. She is going to join me as well to preview Friday night's game on Apple TV when The Miz takes on the Cubs, and also just Major League Baseball as a whole. She goes to different parks every single week to do Apple TV games, which is awesome. So we're going to talk to her coming up tomorrow on the show. Huddle will be back 5 a.m. bright and early with you tomorrow morning as well. So looking forward to all of that. In the meantime, Brewers and Reds tonight. 6:10 first pitch. We're less than 20 minutes away. Let's get you the starting lineups one more time before we get you out of here. Leading off for the Milwaukee Brewers is the DH, Christian Yelich. Batting second in left field, Jackson Chourio. Batting third at second base, Bryce Terang. The cleanup hitter is the catcher, William Contreras. Batting fifth at first base, Jake Bauers. Batting sixth in center field, Garrett Mitchell. Batting seventh in right field, Sal Frelick. Batting eighth at shortstop, Cooper Pratt. And batting ninth at third base is David Hamilton. For the Brewers, it's Yelich, Chourio, Terang, Contreras, Bauers, Mitchell, Frelick, Pratt, and Hamilton. For the Reds, leading off in left field, Blake Dunn. Batting second at shortstop, Ellie De La Cruz. Batting third in center field, Dane Myers. The cleanup hitter is the third baseman, Sal Stewart. Batting fifth at first base, Spencer Steer. Batting sixth as the DH, Eugenio Suarez. Batting seventh in right field, Noel V. Marte. Batting eighth behind the plate, Tyler Stevenson. Batting ninth at second base is Matt McLean. For the Reds, it's Dunn, De La Cruz, Myers, Stewart, Steer, Suarez, Marte, Stevenson, and McLean. Let's take a look at some fast facts to make you a little smarter as you watch tonight's game. And wow, how about this? The Brewers have won now 9 consecutive series against the Reds. They clinched that last night, and they'll go for the sweep tonight. And the team is 47-19 in their last 66 games against the Reds. Just dominating Cincy. Let me see here. Let's see. They're the Brewers clinched their 9th consecutive road series win over the Reds with last night's victory. That's what I meant. A road series win. Clinched their 9th consecutive road series win over the Reds last night. And they have not lost a road series in Cincy since 2002. They've won 18 of their last 21 series overall against Cincinnati. 18 of their last 21 series. They have just dominated Cincinnati, and hopefully that continues tonight. Also, don't look now, but the Brewers coming into today with the second best record in Major League Baseball, 1.5 games behind the Dodgers. If the season ended today, guess who would be the 2 seed? Guess who would get a bye? Your Milwaukee Brewers. They were a half game up on the Braves coming into today. So as good as the Braves were, and they were hot coming out of the gates, Brewers have caught them, folks. Brewers have caught them. Even after losing 2 out of 3 over the weekend to Atlanta, the Brewers have caught them. All right, that'll do it for the baseball pregame show presented by Import Minded, your trusted choice for exceptional vehicle care on South 27th, just north of 894. I will join the huddle at 7:25 tomorrow to talk Brewers. Then I'll have you for Milwaukee baseball tonight from 6 to 7 tomorrow on Fox Sports 920. Thanks so much for listening. This has been the baseball pregame show. I'm Hunter Baumgardt on Fox Sports 920.